Picture this. You're standing in an Apple store, two iPhones in front of you, both called Pro, both running the same chip, both the same price category, and the salesperson says they're basically the same. They are not the same. Every year, the iPhone Pro models share nearly every feature in common apart from screen size, but at times Apple gives the Pro Max model a special advantage. And a new leak indicates that's exactly what's happening with the iPhone 18 Pro line. This year, there are two specific advantages, and I'm going to tell you exactly which one actually matters for your decision. Stay with me, because the second one surprised even the leaker who found it. The calendar has turned to July, and the iPhone 18 Pro and iPhone 18 Pro Max are now just 2 months away. The devices are expected to look similar to the iPhone 17 Pro and iPhone 17 Pro Max, but there will still be meaningful year-over-year changes. But here's what most people are missing. Both phones will share a huge amount of DNA. Same a 20 Pro chip, 12 gigabytes of RAM, and a smaller dynamic island. Same price tier, basically the same phone, right? Wrong, because there are two areas where Apple is drawing a very deliberate line between these two models. And if you're trying to decide which one to buy or whether to upgrade at all, this is the breakdown you actually need. Let's start with the one that's genuinely historic. The Pro Max is expected to get a variable aperture main camera, a first for any iPhone, while the standard Pro gets enhanced telephoto lenses instead. Now, let me explain why that's a bigger deal than it sounds. A variable aperture is a camera lens that can physically open and close to control how much light enters the sensor, similar to how your eye adjusts in bright or dark environments. This gives you real hardware control over depth of field and low light performance, rather than relying purely on software tricks. That last part. Rather than relying purely on software tricks, well, that's Apple quietly admitting that computational photography, the thing they've been selling you for 6 years, has a ceiling, and they're now going hardware to break through it. Every iPhone camera before this has had a fixed aperture, one setting, and software compensates for the rest. Apple held that line through the iPhone 12 Pro Max, the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and the iPhone 17 Pro Max. But now supply chain reports suggest the variable aperture will launch as a Pro Max exclusive. And here's what's wild about that. Back with the iPhone 12 Pro Max, Apple gave the bigger model sensor shift stabilization first. The smaller Pro caught up the following year. The pattern here looks identical. So if you buy the regular Pro this year, when you're probably getting variable aperture in 2027. That's either fine or infuriating, depending on how you feel about being the beta tester for the feature that ships next fall. Okay, this is the one where even the person who found it pumped the brakes. Weibo leaker Digital Chat Station recently posted a screenshot from a Chinese regulatory database revealing battery data. These numbers, if they prove true, show minimal battery changes for the iPhone 18 Pro, but a significant increase in battery capacity with the iPhone 18 Pro Max. Even the leaker seems surprised, saying in his post that the numbers need further verification because the gains are so big. When the leaker is questioning his own leak, that's when you pay attention. So what are the actual numbers? Battery life gets a major push on the Pro Max. Leaked figures point to 5,100 to 5,200 milliamp hours, the largest capacity ever in an iPhone. For context, the iPhone 17 Pro Max launched with 4,685 milliamp hours. That's a roughly 10% increase on a phone that already had great battery life. And the regular Pro, minimal changes, which means Apple isn't just maintaining the battery gap between these two models. If that roughly 10% increase holds, Apple clearly plans to push its larger model's battery advantage further than ever. Combined with the efficiency gains from the A20 Pro chip and next generation display technology, this could translate into the strongest battery life ever seen on an iPhone. That difference could deliver up to 40 hours on a single charge. 40 hours on a phone. That's not a spec, that's a lifestyle change. Now look, fairness that the Pro and Pro Max aren't completely diverging. They still share a huge amount of new hardware this year, and it's genuinely impressive. Like the iPhone Fold, the iPhone 18 Pro models will get an A20 chip built on a 2 nanometer process. That chip is expected to deliver 15% faster performance and 30% better power efficiency. That's not a small jump, especially because that efficiency improvement feeds back into battery life, so even the regular Pro is going to last longer than last year's model. Then there's the dynamic island. The dynamic island on the front of the iPhone 18 Pro and Pro Max is reportedly shrinking this year. Rumor has it that it could be around 50% smaller than what it was on the iPhone 17 Pro, which should make the display more elegant and immersive. Half the size. I'm going to be honest, I've been staring at this notch for 4 years now, and every time Apple makes it smaller, I feel like I'm getting my screen back 1 millimeter at a time. At this rate, it disappears completely in 2031. Mark the calendar. Both phones also get the new C2 modem. With the C2 modem, the iPhone 18 Pro models will reportedly support 5G via satellite for web browsing without Wi-Fi or cellular connectivity. That's a genuine step forward. 5G via satellite. The implication is that you could get real internet, not just emergency messages, in places where there's no tower in sight. Apple is also expected to simplify the camera control button by removing touch sensitivity and haptic feedback. The redesigned button will only have pressure sensitivity, which honestly I'm fine with. The current camera control has this weird phantom swipe problem where you breathe on it wrong and your camera settings change. Pressure only might actually be better. Design, this is where I have to be straight with you. Most recent leaks suggest the iPhone 18 Pro and Pro Max reuse a lot of the iPhone 17 Pro's design because Apple is reportedly reusing the same manufacturing molds. So if you're coming from an iPhone 17 Pro and hoping for a dramatic new look, that's not this year. A meaningfully different looking iPhone in 2027 is a reasonable bet given Apple's history of using anniversaries for design resets, the iPhone X in 2017 being the obvious precedent. 2027 is when things get interesting aesthetically, but 2026 does have a new color. A trusted source confirmed one of the new colorways for the iPhone 18 Pro to be dark cherry, replacing the cosmic orange option from last year. The color may be more of a dark cherry with a tinge of purple rather than a darker red shade, and one leaker flagged something worth noting. The iPhone 18 Pro will retain its aluminum alloy build, while also issuing a specific warning that the new color options may be susceptible to paint peeling. So, beautiful new color, potentially fragile new color. Apple, if you're watching, put a case on it. Okay, this is the part I said I'd get to. The thing that almost nobody is covering. We can now safely assume that Apple will not only upgrade the main camera of the iPhone 18 Pro and Pro Max with a variable aperture, but also a completely new image sensor. This came out of a 630 gigabyte data leak from Tata Electronics, an Apple supplier in India. Both the iPhone 17 Pro and iPhone 17 Pro Max used a Sony camera sensor named the IMX903 for the main camera. This changes with the successors, whose camera sensor now identifies as likely the Sony IMX905. New aperture hardware plus a new sensor generation. Samsung is also reportedly working on a new 3-layer stacked image sensor, one that integrates 3 layers of circuitry, which would improve camera responsiveness, reduce noise, and increase dynamic range, so you're potentially looking at variable aperture, a new Sony sensor, and a next-generation stacked sensor architecture. That's not an incremental camera upgrade, that's a complete rebuild of the imaging system on the Pro Max. The regular Pro gets telephoto improvements, which are also good, but they are not that. So, who should buy what? Here's my take. The iPhone 18 Pro is still a legitimately excellent phone. The A20 Pro chip uses a 2 nanometer architecture, and with a new packaging design, it should deliver solid year-over-year performance and power efficiency gains, smaller dynamic island, new C2 modem, 5G satellite, iOS 27 with a completely rebuilt Siri. That's a real upgrade. But if cameras are the reason you buy a Pro iPhone, the Pro Max is the unambiguous choice this year for the first time. Not because it's bigger, because it has hardware the smaller model doesn't. Variable aperture and a new sensor that the regular Pro simply isn't getting. And if battery is the thing keeping you on Android or making you carry a battery pack, the Pro Max just made that conversation irrelevant. 5,100 to 5,200 milliamp hours, that's the number. The gap between Pro and Pro Max has never been wider, and Apple made that choice deliberately. One last thing, Apple raised the price of its Macs and iPads in June 2026, and it will likely increase the price of new iPhone models when they launch. So the question of whether to wait and save or buy now and avoid a price hike, that's a real decision this fall. I'm working on that video next, because the answer is less obvious than you'd think.